Look at this baby. So tiny, so innocent. You'd think he'd grow up to maybe run a farm, open a small pottery business. Nope. This child is about to try and conquer the entire known world before turning 33. His name? Alexander the Great. And subtlety was not his strong suit. Alexander was born in 356 BC in Macedon, which at the time was basically Greece's rough northern cousin. His father? Philip II of Macedon, a military genius, a master strategist, and the kind of dad who conquers most of Greece and then looks at his 10-year-old son like, "Your turn." Philip spent his life turning Macedon into a military powerhouse. He reformed the army, created the phalanx, invented the sarissa, a spear so long it probably needed its own zip code. Alexander grew up watching this and thinking, okay, so world domination, got it. When Alexander was a boy, a massive wild horse was brought to Philip. No one could ride it. The horse was feral, uncontrollable, angry. Basically a living metaphor for Alexander's future personality. Philip was ready to send it back. Young Alexander steps in and says, I can tame it. Alexander notices the horse is scared of its own shadow, so he turns it towards the sun. Boom, problem solved. He rides it. The horse's name? Bucephalus. Philip reportedly says, my son, seek a kingdom equal to yourself. Macedon is too small for you, which is ancient Greek for, oh no, I've created a monster. Philip hires a tutor for Alexander. Not just any tutor, Aristotle. Yes, that Aristotle. So while other kids are learning basic math, Alexander is getting philosophy, science, medicine, and epic poetry directly from the DLC expansion pack of Human Intelligence. Alexander becomes obsessed with Homer's Iliad. He basically sees Achilles and goes, yes, that. I want that vibe. He didn't just want to rule, he wanted to be legendary. Important difference. In 336 BC, Philip II is assassinated. Very dramatic, very public. And suddenly, 20-year-old Alexander is king. Now, when you become king at 20, two things usually happen. Everyone tests you, everyone tries to rebel. Greece immediately goes, maybe we don't need Macedon. Alexander responds with, oh, you absolutely do. He crushes revolts, destroys the city of Thebes as a warning, leaves one house standing because it belonged to a poet he liked. Petty, but cultured. Greece falls back in line, and then Alexander looks east, at Persia, the biggest empire in the world, and says, yeah, I'll take that. The Persian Empire was ruled by Darius III. It was massive, wealthy, powerful. Alexander crosses into Asia Minor in 334 BC with around 40,000 men. Persia had way more than that. Alexander's strategy? Speed, shock, confidence bordering on insanity. At the Battle of Issus, Alexander personally charges towards Darius. Darius sees this 20-something maniac riding directly at him and decides, you know what, I have other appointments, and flees. When your emperor runs, morale does not improve. After defeating Persia in multiple battles, Alexander moves into Egypt. The Egyptians are not big fans of Persian rule, so when Alexander shows up, they're like, you're not Persian? No? Congratulations, you're pharaoh. And just like that, he's a god king. He founds a city and names it Alexandria. Very creative. He would go on to found like 20 cities, all named Alexandria, because branding matters. Finally, 331 BC, the Battle of Gaugamela. Darius has assembled a gigantic army, chariots, cavalry, possibly everything except a do not enter sign. Alexander uses precision tactics, punches a hole in the Persian line, and once again drives straight at Darius. Darius flees. Again. At this point, Darius's LinkedIn profile is not looking strong. Alexander captures Babylon, then Susa, then Persepolis, the Persian ceremonial capital. He burns part of it down. Some say by accident, some say drunk revenge. Either way, not subtle. The Persian Empire collapses. Alexander is now ruler of basically everything from Greece to modern-day Iran. He is 25. Most 25-year-olds today are still figuring out laundry. Did he stop? Of course not. He pushes further east, into Central Asia, into regions that didn't even know they were about to be conquered. Then he invades India. At the Battle of the Hydaspes River, he faces war elephants, actual war elephants, which is like cavalry but angrier. He still wins. At this point, his army has marched thousands of miles. They're exhausted, homesick, probably questioning life choices. They finally mutiny and say, "Please stop." Alexander sulks for days in his tent. Eventually, he agrees to turn back. Even world conquerors have HR limits. On the way back to Babylon in 323 BC, Alexander falls ill. High fever, weakness, and then he dies. He's 32. No clear heir, no succession plan, no conquering the world for dummies manual. His generals immediately begin fighting over the empire. Within years, it fractures into multiple kingdoms. And just like that, the largest empire the world had ever seen starts breaking apart. Alexander didn't just conquer, he spread Greek culture across 3 continents: language, architecture, ideas. This blending of cultures became known as the Hellenistic Age. His name became legend. To some, a hero. To others, a destroyer. To historians, a logistical impossibility. But one thing is certain. He looked at the map of the known world and said, "I think this belongs to me." And for a brief, chaotic, unbelievable moment, it did.